Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, coming to you from an altitude of 5,280 feet for the Mile High Podcast, where we hope to have you join us in September next year, 2023, on higher ground for the 11th Mile High gathering, chiropractic movement in Colorado. And today, I have to say, I'm really eager, thrilled, excited. I feel like a kid on Christmas morning being able to get to do this interview of this particular podcast episode. I think people are going to really enjoy it with the one and only Claude Lessard. He's a 1977 Sherman graduate, practices in Yardley, Pennsylvania, and he has this phenomenal new book, Timed Out Chiropractic. It was actually his third book. And we're going to be talking about that and so much more. And he is a phenomenal chiropractor, committed to the philosophy, committed to excellence for chiropractors and to Chiropractic Objective. So thank you for taking the time to join us today, Dr. Claude Lessard.
Yes, hello. Happy to be here.
We're glad to have you here. First of all, before we talk about this opus of a book, and your other books, let's have people get to know you a little bit. How did you find your way into the chiropractic world?
Well, I did not find my way into the chiropractic world. It found me, literally found me. I'm going to make it brief and short. I was walking on 72nd Street in New York, and Broadway. New York Institute of Chiropractic was right there. Met somebody on the street who was a student there. That's someone that I knew from my country, Canada. We struck a conversation. He was a student, and he says, "You got to talk to this woman. I don't know what to say to you much. I'm just new here." So we went to the college. We went to the institute and met Irene Gold in a hallway, and we talked a little bit. That was October of '73. And Sherman had just opened its door, and she told me I should become a chiropractor. And she gave me an application form from Sherman, and she says, "My husband, the admission dean, so just forward that to him." And a month later, I was accepted.
There you go.
That's it. I had no idea what chiropractic was. I had no idea what I was getting into, and here I am, almost 50 years later.
50 years later. Yes. And how do you feel now, looking back, about the gift of being given the gift of having to have the privilege to be a chiropractor the last 50 years?
Oh my God. Well, has defined my life, obviously. And it's given me an opportunity to contribute quite a bit in so many ways. I was the original founder of Adio Institute of Straight Chiropractic back in 1978. I was only 1 year in practice with Joe Strauss, Reggie Gold, and all these people. And it turns into Pennsylvania College. And then I was the administrative dean over there. I was the director of technique department. I started a student clinic, which in those days we called the adjusting center. So that's and then private practice. And here I am writing books and trying to think in the future. I don't want to think about now. I'm not trying to convince people now. I'm really thinking about the students of the future. What is it that they're going to learn with the information that we have today that 50 years ago or 100 years ago we did not have? And this is what I'm about. I'm trying to really recontextualize chiropractic with all of the new information that's made available to us today. Yes, beautiful. I find that very exciting, very fulfilling. Beautiful.
I find it very exciting, and I think all our listeners are going to find it very exciting. Before we delve deeper, where can people get this book? Can you tell them where
they can get it anywhere? It's all over. It's Amazon. It's on Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, Joe Strauss website. The Blue Book. It's Blue Book. That's the second blue book. That's not Joe's blue book. Meaning to say, he said, Claude, he said, you're the only one who's writing blue books, right? I said, yes, anymore, because Joe's not writing anymore. So yes, that's right. And I'm going to perpetuate that. I'm continuing.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's start off with the title, Chiropractic, Timed Out Chiropractic.
Yes.
Tell people where you came up with the title. What did it mean?
What does it mean? Well, 1895, discovery of chiropractic. D.D. Palmer then starts a school. Most of the students are MDs at the time. They had an agenda. They wanted to use a new therapy for their practice. And in those days, D.D. thought that he had found the cure for deafness, and then the cure for everything. And then he went bankrupt. You see, this book is based on the principles of chiropractic, basic science. And Principle 26 says that the universal cycle of life, universal life existence, is really knowing that the universal information force is deconstructed toward structural matter, and the innate information force is reconstructed. So in life, in the universe, in existence, that's what it does. Deconstruction, reconstruction, deconstruction, reconstruction. Anything that exists will go through that. Well, chiropractic is no different. So therefore, he went bankrupt in 1902. BJ saved him from bankruptcy, picked up the school. Then there was a deconstruction in DD happening at that time. You see that now. In 1914, he passed away, a full deconstruction. BJ reconstructed the school and developed the philosophy, art, and science of chiropractic. That was recorded in the chiropractic textbooks in 1927 by Ralph Stevenson. And then BJ was a great leader. And however, because he was a great leader, he was trying to bring something new, there was a dissension, divisiveness within the profession. They did not like his staunch, straight view. So they split and they started their own school and everything. And but BJ was still the leader. And in 1961, BJ died. Another deconstruction. The leader of the profession died. However, there was a hiatus at that moment from 1961 to 1973. You did not hear much of anything. It was quiet. In 1958, 3 years before BJ died, Reggie Gold, Tom Gelati, and Sid Williams had graduated from Palmer. And so what happened is that during that time, they were doing their own thing. However, in that quiet moment, it's like when a woman is praying the first 2 months, she doesn't really know, unless she has those tests now. But if she goes in a natural way, she won't know until for a couple of months. But life is already growing inside of her and nobody really knows. The husband doesn't know, nobody knows. Same thing was happening here, I think. There was some type of hiatus. There was a timed out moment. Chiropractic was being timed out. And in those days, up to BJ's death, chiropractic was used to get sick people well. Really, that's what it was used for. There was no, and doing it better than medicine without drugs and surgery. That was it. One cause, one cure. There was the HO movement and so forth. However, during that time, whatever happened there, Reggie Gold was already preparing a blueprint to start a postgraduate school. He was teaching at Columbia at that time, postgraduate school in philosophy, and heard about Gelati. Tom Gelati wanted to start a school. And for some reason, they both connected. And they listened to each other. And Reggie says, I have the blueprint and everything, but I like your idea much better than mine. And Tom says, why? He said, because me, I would have to take them as graduate and have them unlearn everything they learned, teach them something new. Now we could teach them right from the start, something that's right. And they started Sherman College. So you see now there was a timed out that took place from 1961 to 1973. However, in the mid-70s, Reggie was teaching philosophy. I was in his classes. And one day he gave us a story about someone that was coming to his practice in Spring Valley. And she was always complaining on Sundays because Reggie was Jewish. So therefore on Sundays, what was happening, he was working on Sundays. And this woman was always complaining. And one day, Reggie was so tired of her, he blurted it out. He said, he doesn't know why he said it. He just said to her, hey, listen, lady, you complain all the time. Why don't you bring your children here so that they won't be in the same mess than you are right now, 20 years from now? Well, he said that in our philosophy class. And then something happened to him. He didn't say it right away, but a couple of classes later, all of a sudden it started to really move away from the idea of chiropractic getting sick people well, because then he started to say sometimes it gets sick people well, sometimes it doesn't. What is it that we do all the time that we can be guaranteed to be successful all the time? Location analysis, facilitation of correction of vertebral subluxation. That's what we do. So that's when he started to say that subluxation are negative in and of themselves, regardless of what was going on in the body. And but it made sense to him, and it was based on making sense. Once again, I'm going to say making sense to you and to me may not make sense to somebody else. It's a personal value. So, but this is what we had. This is how we had evolved. So this moment of going from getting sick people well to having a non-therapeutic aspect of chiropractic, that timed out. Chiropractic was timed out. They had its time to do what it had to do at the beginning for 80 years, and now it was changing direction. There was a new paradigm shift. You got it.
Love it. Love it.
That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from.
I love it. I love it. And so well said. Now, what was, as you start, when you started to write, what was your vision with the book?
With the book? And again, it's not to convince the chiropractor of today. It really is not. Now, those who want to, they can read the book. And if it makes sense to them, if they understand it, that they want to change what they do, that's fine. But it's not for that. It's really for the people 20, 30, 40 years from now. Because you see, you and I, and Reggie and Tom and everybody else, we all learn in a certain way from the 1900s to where we graduated. But now there was no computers, no data processing, no quantum physics, nothing like that. It's an amazing thing. You can be in Colorado right now. I'm in Pennsylvania, and we connected just like that. And we're talking to each other. There is no wires. It's like magic, so to speak. But it's not magic. This is information that we have now that we did not have. And when we combine that with chiropractic principles, which are really scientific principles, because my first book, which was called A New Look at Chiropractic Basic Science, reclassified those principles from philosophical construct to scientific principle that can be empirically proven. Most of them can be empirically proven. Why doing that? Well, what was chiropractic science before? What was it? Nobody knew what it was. The NCM, that's part of the art, the analysis. X-ray was a part of analysis. You know what I'm saying? So the question is, you say, where do I go with that? I really try to remember the deconstruction that took place and reconstruct. Same thing here. Now, Reggie died 2012. Okay, God rest his soul. And another great leader. He took the leadership of the chiropractic movement from 1961 when BJ died until his passing in 2012. And but then there was another quiet moment. It's the same thing again. You say, what is happening in that quiet moment? Well, Joe Strauss continued to write. I'm starting to write. New information comes in, and now we are starting to put it together as a reconstruction of chiropractic in turn and based on universal values, which are the absolute immutable principle of chiropractic basic science. See, this is not because Dan Knoll says it makes sense to me, or Reggie says it makes sense to me, or Claude says it makes sense to me. No. Now, if you really look at those principles, try to deconstruct them if you can. I tried that. I've not succeeded. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but if somebody can, be my guest. If you cannot deconstruct them, then don't argue with each other. Argue with the principle. You see what I'm saying? And yes, that's what I want the new students in 20, 30 years from now to get that foundation so that their chiropractic mind will be able to be formed in a different way than yours and mine and your dad was. You understand what I'm saying? And since it's going to be a new mind, there's going to be new ideas, and it's going to move forward. It's going to carry on way beyond you and me. And that's the idea. That's the goal of the book, to go beyond, to really get to the future so that it can be carried on exactly at what it is. Because 100 years from now, they're going to see us the same way we look at BJ. You're going to say, oh, wow, these guys didn't know that much. And they're going to be able to continue it. Because I'm not saying this is the last word. It's a continuation, a development, an evolutionary process, so to speak.
Love it, and have an impact on future generations.
Absolutely, that's what it's about.
Right.
Yes, because we only tapped 10% of the population for the last 100 years. Why is that? Because we had personal value. Well, 10% people agree with you, they come to your office. 90% don't. How about having universal values? You see, I'll give you an example of universal value that happened 500 years ago. Galileo said, the earth is round, rotates around the sun. They thought it was flat. It's only the last 500 years that we know now it's round. You see, that's universal value. That's accepted by everybody, even though there's some flat earthers still going on today. But the fact is that that's universal. Nobody would disagree, would argue with that. This is what it's about. If chiropractic could be presented from a point of view of having universal values with principles, scientific principles that are immutable and unchangeable, then you got something to rely upon rather than personal feelings, personal opinion. It makes sense to me, and that type of thing.
Yes. Ask you a more section about a section of the book. So,
okay,
going through the principles. Principle number 4, the triune of existence. The triune.
Yes.
Of existence.
Yes.
So, I think this is a crux of some of the new information in my mind that you're sharing in this, which is the principle of organization, information /force, energy /matter. I think it's a vital area for people to have an expansion of from the knowledge before. Can you share about that, about the information /force and energy /matter?
Okay. According to Stevenson's and BJ and DD and even Reggie, for that matter, as far as force was concerned, it was thought to be energy.
Mm-hmm.
Force in chiropractic was thought to be energy. But if you take a closer look at what we're saying here, is that Einstein came along in 1905. That's a long time now, over 100 years. And Einstein said that energy equal mc square, the mass of matter at square the speed of light. Wait a minute. Energy equals mass. That's matter. Energy equals matter at the speed of light. Energy is matter, because energy is comprised of what? Electrons, protons, and neutrons. That goes in different configuration and velocities and so forth. So energy and matter are interchangeable. And you can talk to physicists and they'll say, yeah, it is interchangeable. So force in chiropractic cannot be energy because it's matter. So you will have intelligence, force matter, and matter. No, we have an element that unites intelligence, that unites the principle with the matter. What is that? And basically, when you take a look closely, you find out that's information. Now, watch this. How do I represent that to you? I am here, you are in Colorado, and we're going to communicate something. I'm going to communicate something to you. What do you see? What do you see?
2.
Okay. That's information. See, you see, that's intangible. meaning to say that these two fingers, you said two. You didn't say two fingers. You didn't say I see fingers. You said two. You see, that's a code. This is a code. What's going on within the body is that same type of situation. It's information, coding information between brain cell to tissue cell for coordination of activities. So that means that in order to have coordination in this Zoom meeting, there's a lot of steps I had to go through. There's a lot of steps you had to go through. I had to answer some forms. You had to send me the form, or somebody else did that on your behalf. I saw all kinds of names there. So it's organized. It didn't happen by chance. Information. So in chiropractic, force is information. So I call that information F, information force. So that we know we're not talking about matter. We're not talking about the regular forces that are attracted to each other and so forth. So that's one point. Energy, matter, well, the same way. Meaning to say that matter and energy is interchangeable. So I call that E matter, so that we call, and eventually maybe we'll be able to just say E matter, information F. So you have the principle, information force, and energy matter. That makes up the triune of existence. Why is that? It makes up the triune of life too, but universal life, because the principle, the universal principle of organization organizes matter at the non-living level as well, at the not inorganic level. It's organized. I mean, the stable, this watch is organized, this is not alive, and so forth. So meaning to say it's kept together. So therefore, we're really talking about existence here. So we start at principle number one of our basic science, which says that there is a universal principle of organization that is continually organizing energy matter, providing property and action to E matter, to maintain it in existence, not to create it. Don't create anything, just maintains it in existence. Everything is created in the universe. Everything is complete in the universe. The conservation law says that matter can never be created, never destroyed. Energy can never be created, never destroyed. So we never create anything. We may deconstruct and construct, but that's not a creation of anything per se. That happened. And within that creation, that creating the created matter, intrinsic is the principle of organization, whether it's on universal level or whether it's on the innate level. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think it's vital for listeners to expand their awareness of that. You know, and also I know you've seen the profession go through a lot over those last 50 years and many different periods. Do you feel our profession is at a crossroads?
Yes, it is. Oh, yes. And you know, we need to do something very soon, very, very soon, because what I see happening is that with how concerned we are with building our practices, how concerned we are to look good in the eyes of the public, how concerned we are to promote chiropractic to the public. You see, what we have promoted so far was according to what we knew. But guess what? Force was not energy. We promoted that. We promoted a falsity. You see what I'm saying? We didn't know. We did not know. Now we're getting to know because the information we have today. I'm not saying we did wrong. I did it for 35 years myself before the last 15 years, taking a look at it more closely. That's what we knew. Right. We did not even know we didn't know that. You see what I'm saying? And
well, now people thought the world was flat for a while. They didn't know.
That's correct. So now we are at a crossroad. And if we're not careful, and if we don't do our homework, I think North America, which is the United States, Canada, I think we might lose the right to keep chiropractic pure and unadulterated, because the way right now the schools are going with accreditation and everything, they have to be designed for getting sick people well in the healthcare system. And I said it for 50 years, chiropractic is not within the healthcare system. People look at me and say, what are you talking about? No, it's not. It may contribute to your health, but it contributes to your whole life. All the experience that you have, if you have no subluxation, would be experience that you would not have had with subluxation. It would have been different. So yes, we are at the crossroad. And again, it's moving very fast. So that's why I'm trying to write these books as fast as I can, hopefully put them through Sherman and Life and other chiropractic colleges that people will say, let's start to teach something that is relevant to today, because the students today, they come in with their BS and with their little Master's of Science and everything, and you cannot talk to them anymore with the foot on the hose. That worked back then, you know what I'm saying? But now we really have to go into data processing, into quantum physics, into communications in ways that we are accustomed to with our devices, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we are at the crossroad, definitely.
You know, I also personally think, and I hope this is true, what I see as I see that there's a new renaissance. There's a new renaissance within chiropractic for the philosophy, for those values. And I'm hoping it flourishes more so that Crossroads goes in the direction I hope it to go, embracing the philosophy more than has in the past. I'm seeing it that way, and hoping that expands, and books like yours get in the right hands, that people can flourish that renaissance away from what I will call the dark ages of allopathy in terms of chiropractic. You know, and
That's right.
Waking up that we're contributing such a bigger vision of the world, as you said, a person's whole life, not just health, not just their health. So important. What are things that you feel or a highlight? What was a highlight for you of this book?
Well, the highlights for me of this book was, first of all, to reclassify and recontextualize the principles from the philosophical construct that they were constructed with to the scientific aspect of it. Then to be able to prove them empirically. For example, the principle of organization, whether it's an innate organization or whether it's a universal organization, is the same. But you know, these things, we do that in our own kitchens all the time, and we don't even realize what we're doing. You know, you can take you want to boil something, and you put a pot of water on your stove, and that water is two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. That's a molecule of water, and that's property is liquid. Now, if you add some heat to this, heat, energy, matter. Now, heat is that's energy, matter, because that's the electron, protons, and neutrons within the fire that are moving in such a way that are causing frictions in such a way that's boiling the water. And as it boils the water gets transformed, organized before your very own eyes, reorganized. Same atoms, same molecule, reorganized at different velocity. Now it's vapor. In front of your very own eyes. You have a laboratory on your kitchen stove. You know, now do the opposite. Take the bowl of water and put it in the fridge and withdraw the heat, that energy, matter. It changed property, same molecules, but different property. Now it's solid ice. You see, that's what's happening in life all the time. So therefore, it's important to understand that. From that perspective, then we get to differentiate between living things and non-living things. Non-living things, which is basically existence, so to speak. Everything exists, but it exists without having the carbon and all those elements that allows that to be adaptable. This is not adaptable. This is adaptable. So there is a difference between the two. And somehow chiropractic, which is very important to get this, chiropractic starts, what does chiropractic do? What its goal? Its goal is to locate, analyze, and facilitate the correction of vertebral subluxation. That's its objective. Wait a minute. That's living things. You don't do that on a corpse. You do that on living things. So when you talk about chiropractic philosophy in practice, it really starts at principle number 20, which is the principles of the innate law of living things, what I call innate law of living things, formerly called innate intelligence. And that governs and adapts all of that body and keep that alive for a while, just for a while, because it has its own genetic makeup and longevity, which is natural. It can be accidents along the way, but let's say a person lives naturally and gets to from point A to point B, from birth to death. There is a time limit where this innate principle will adapt up to the limitation of that matter. It will not break a universal law, right? That's principle 24. Innate intelligence will not break a universal law, so it's always in accordance with universal law. So when you look at that, the reconstruction, the deconstruction, you see that chiropractic philosophy and practice, at least in our practice, really starts at the principle of the innate law in order to help people understand that the difference between you and a shovel is that you will adapt. Right. You will grow calluses if you pick up the shovel, except the handle of the shovel eventually will wear off. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that is important to realize. Another important aspect, if you go on the other side, and a lot of people will go on metaphysical incorporation of saying that universal intelligence is God. And that really has created a lot of conflict and confusions in the past. However, that was the best way in those days that they were able to relate to what they were looking at. It was so big and powerful. How do you relate to that? Well, you relate to that universal intelligence is God, and innate intelligence is God in man, and lives upstairs, and the giant lives upstairs in the brain, and the pygmy lives downstairs as educated, and all these things were fine, but this is not what it's about. And it contradicts our very own principle. Guess what? What is the function of intelligence? The function of intelligence is to create force, not matter. That cannot be God. It's to create force. What is the function of force? Unite matter with the principle, with the intelligence. You see, if you start to say that all of a sudden universal intelligence create things, it does not create matter. It creates force, information. That's what it creates, information. If it creates anything, is information. It organizes information for you to be alive, for me to be alive, for everybody else to function properly. So once again, those seem to be very small things, but they are big, because if you don't own the closeness, if you don't own the truth for what it is, and just portion of it, you can, no matter the best, Reggie Gold, the best speaker in the world, can only present that which he owns. See, all of my work right now is predicated on this famous saying, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot construct what cannot be copied. And if you think about that for a moment after this interview, you may think about it. Try to find anything in the universe that human beings have constructed that was not copied from an already existing principle.
Right. So vital. I'd like to ask you, we're going to have thousands of chiropractors and chiropractic students that will listen to this and watch it. Some will listen, some will watch, or either on our app or on YouTube or whatever way they do. If there's one thing you'd like to would like to share with them about chiropractic, what would that be?
I would tell them right off the bat, after they listen to the interview, if they really get interested, they should read the 2 blue books. They should read them. And you look at Chiropractic Basic Science, and then the other one, which is these 2. They have to read that. They have to read it, but not just read it. They have to dissect it, digest it, think about it. It's not easy read necessarily. The same way Stevenson's textbook is not an easy read. At times, it's complicated. However, the practice of chiropractic is simple. And that's the good news. But if you really own this, then your being, when you give your orientation, one-on-one or in group lectures and so forth, that will be transmitted to them in your enthusiasm, in your personality. They're going to know, they're going to say, this guy, I like this guy. There's something going on with him. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, this gal too, you know? So the fact is that if I would want to leave something with them is to really wash their mind of compromise, wash their mind clean. And I think the most difficult thing for the chiropractors of today, including you and me, is to unlearn what we have learned.
Yes.
That's hard because we all have a tendency to worship at the grave sites of Didi, of BJ, of Reggie. No, we must move on. We must carry on. I remember the last week of Reggie's life, I went to visit him in Ballackinwood, and there was not much conversation. He was not talkative at all. And as a matter of fact, at one point, I got upset about this. I was talking, telling him what I was doing and everything. He was not talking. And I said, I got up. I said, okay, I'm going to go. I said, damn it. I said, what is it? You called me to come here and you're not saying anything. I don't get that. And he just finally looked at me straight in the eyes with a smirk on his face. And he said 2 words, only 2 words to me. That's the only 2 words of the entire half hour spent there. 2 words.
What were they?
Carry on.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's what you're doing. That's what we're doing. That's what we're called to do. It's not just to build our practice today, which is fine. It's for the future. That's what your father is doing. That's what people do. And yes, there are some people who would be just interested. I don't want to do that and this and that. But those who are interested into finding out more about what chiropractic really is, we contextualize from a scientific point of view, something that is immutable. And by the way, they can read the book, they can learn the book, and they can deconstruct the book if they can. And they can reconstruct it in a different way if they can. My point is that I think that it is something that everybody has a responsibility to do in order to move forward, or at least attempt to move forward with chiropractic. I won't even say with the profession, because the profession is not the profession I want the way it looks right now. I don't think anybody wants that, but for chiropractic's sake. And when I said at the beginning that maybe chiropractic North American might be losing its right to teaching chiropractic for what it is, we may have to go to different countries for that, where they don't have accreditation and legalism and having to always be under the medical model. We have a chiropractic model. It's a good model. It's a solid model. It's a model that works. It's effective. I think we should use it, should fight for that, and we should do everything we can to promote it. Everything we can.
Yes, absolutely. As we're winding down here, and I so appreciate your passion. I encourage people to get both the new book and also A New Look at Chiropractic Basic Science, and you can get both of them at the Lessard you can get them at the Joe Strauss.
Anywhere. Just Google the title of the book, and you'll see about maybe 200 stores that would be there for sale. You'll see it.
So grab it, and I really hope, especially chiropractic students, doctors as well, but I really hope that people, so as they start to practice again, embrace this and start with an expanded view. One thing to cover more, the Chiropractic Objective.
Yes.
Hear a little bit about the absolute universal value of the Chiropractic Objective.
Chiropractic Objective. Yes, I will say that. I will say something on that. It's important to know that the Chiropractic Objective comes from the 33 principles. Doesn't come from anywhere else. You won't find that. You won't find that in any other field. And what we're looking at is that there can be interference with transmission of innate information force. That's principle 29. There can be interference in transmission. And interference in transmission in the body is always directly or indirectly due to vertebral subluxation in the spinal column, principle 31. And when the subluxation is not present, there is a rest, there is a natural flow, a natural momentum of the transmission of the innate impulse, because that's what it's interfered with in principle 29. There can be transmission in interference in transmission of innate information force. It's really the innate impulse we're talking about. So when we say that the chiropractic objective is the location, analysis, and facilitation of the correction of vertebral subluxation for a normal transmission of innate impulse. Normal, what's normal? Principle 27 says innate intelligence and innate law of living things is always normal, and its function is always normal. That's the only thing in the body that's normal. Everything else is not. That's innate normal. If you have no subluxation, your body will function at innate normal. It will adapt to the best of its ability according to the limitation of matter. So having said this, you heard me say the facilitation of the correction of subluxation. Why? Because we do not adjust the spine. We do not correct the subluxation. What we do is that we analyze the subluxation, we locate it, we analyze it, we try to get the best line of drive, the proper listing and everything, the right position and so forth. And then we introduce an adjustic thrust. That's an external invasive force, information that we will introduce in the body as educatedly specific as possible, with the intent that the innate law within will use that external invasive force and will adapt it to process a vertebral adjustment. So the adjustment is really always performed by the principle of organization, the innate principle of organization, the innate law of organization, always. So what do we do at chiropractor? We facilitate that process by introducing an intelligent, hopefully it is, not just shoveling down, like they say, kick them in the ass with a shovel. That's good, but that's not very specific. My first talk in chiropractic was in 1975 of May. I still have the brochure here from Sherman College, 1975. My first talk was entitled "Chiropractic is Specific or It Is Nothing," and that was from BJ. So I developed something on that, but it is true. So what we do, we introduce our adjustic thrust so that the innate law will adapt this information in order to coordinate, in order to restore the transmission, to correct the subluxation, to restore the transmission of information. It's really about restoration of transmission through the correction of subluxation. That's what the objective is about. And now, if that's what the chiropractic objective is, and it's based on 33 immutable, unchangeable principles, if you practice anything else but that, if you use chiropractic to practice to get sick people well, to make them feel better, for them to have a great day, for them to, don't have any symptoms, no headaches, no this, no that, you are not practicing chiropractic objective. You're practicing your personal objective to help people, which is commendable. I want you to help people. But if you can't help people by practicing the chiropractic objective, which is universal, not because you say so, because chiropractic principle, the basic science says so. Because, if you ask a basic scientist, what's your job? What are the basic scientists going to say? My job is to discover principles in life, to understand the world better in which we live and life, to understand it better. Then you ask a basic scientist, what is your job? And the basic scientists say, well, I'm going to use a principle of my colleagues, the basic scientists, and I'm going to try to use those principles to solve problems in the world. Well, that's what chiropractic did. Chiropractic had the 33 principles of its basic science, and now the applied scientists, like whether it was B.J. Palmer, Gonstead, Blair, or whoever, or Donnie with his technique, or vertebrae, whatever it was, to try to use these principles to correct, to solve a problem. And our biggest problem in the world right now is called vertebral subluxation.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And
And that's the objective.
right.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And more chiropractors and chiropractic students need to focus their energy there, and not enough are. And there's no shortage of people walking around with subluxated spines.
That's correct. And if the new students who learn it that way and learn it the right way, which we did not, I mean, it's not their fault. Our professors was not their fault. They didn't know. Now we're starting to know. We have a responsibility to really, really educate our new students in a way that will benefit not only them personally as chiropractors and their chiropractic mind, but that will benefit the people they're going to serve. Because I believe the more closer to the truth that we get of chiropractic, of how to articulate that, hey, listen, 15 years from now, there may be a young lady sitting in the front row of Philosophy 801 at Sherman that might be the next, let's say, Reggie Gold as a woman reincarnated. Mean to say, you never know what kind of mind will come in those days that we be molded in a way that we can have, our leaders will come from there. Well, our leaders will come from there, perhaps much better prepared with accurate information rather than information that was accurate once upon a time, but now is can be modified into a better way. Not to say it was wrong, but simply to grow, to develop it further, closer to what it was probably intended to be at the first place. Because those principles, they don't belong to chiropractic. You know that, right? They existed much before D.D. Palmer discovered them. I mean, people were getting their adjustment from their innate intelligence long before the first chiropractic adjustment was given. You know, all the universal forces bombarding the spine, the innate law was constantly adjusting the best it could. You know, but now we have a profession, we have chiropractic that can actually do that with an intelligent way in order to really promote the restoration of the momentum of transmission of all that information within the body. It's like, I mean, these two computers right now, yours and mine. Well, if there is any lack, let's say there is a tower in West Virginia that is falling down right now, and all of a sudden there is a glitch, and all of a sudden you say, I just hear you, I can't see you. Well, you see, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with me. But now there is a glitch in that tower. That's what we do. The spine is a tower. We make sure it has its own integrity to carry all the information that it's supposed to carry in the first place.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is so vital. It's such a vital conversation because lots of people are graduating with Doctor of Chiropractic degrees and they never learn this information.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is sad, which is unfortunate. And at the same time, this is a resource that they can use to have their mind open to what actually is the essence of our philosophy, science, and art. And I hope that people go to Lessard Chiropractic and grab the book. We'll put the link for where people can get it in with the podcast. And I would also, again, recommend people get the other book as well, The New Look at Chiropractic's Basic Science. So vital. And the thing is, we talk about it being for chiropractic and chiropractors and their profession. It's actually more so for somebody else, which is humanity.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And you'll find out within the book, since you read it, you probably will find out also that we are addressing something that the old timers did not address too much because they didn't know what to do with it. Innate rays there's not only innate impulse, but there is innate rays that emanates from within the cell itself. There is an innate intelligence of the cell, an innate intelligence of the organ. I heard Reggie say that all the time. Well, that's true. That's one of the reasons why you can transport a heart from New York to LA and transplant a heart, and there is no nervous system, no brain, no nothing, and the heart is kept alive in a solution and it beats. Why? Because it has its own innate intelligence within the organ, limited for only 12 hours. They have about a window of 12 hours to make that happen. So again, I introduce a term innate rays as to compare to innate impulse. Impulse is transmitted through the nervous system. Innate rays emanates from within, and it's the same principle, except different methods of providing information. So innate rays for metabolism, innate impulse for coordination of activities of all the parts. Principle 23, it says that the function of innate intelligence to adapt universal force and matter for the body, for coordination of what action of the body and for the benefit of the body. So it really gives information that you can really see something that before you had to believe, but now you don't need to believe it. You can't see it, and you can prove it to yourself. And I show in the book how to prove that for themselves. Yes.
And again, thank you so much. And I hope so many chiropractors and chiropractic students pick this up so they can get more further immersed in our principles. Because again, so few people graduate even knowing a handful of the principles, let alone more. So, and the future of chiropractic for humanity receiving the chiropractic, it depends upon that. So vital. I want to thank you again, Dr. Claude. And if people want to reach out to you, know more about you, how can they connect with you more?
They can connect with me on the website, lessardchiropractic.com. My personal email, my name, Claude Lessard at Comcast.net. I would be more than happy to exchange information with them and what I know and so forth. So anytime somebody wants to talk to me, they can reach me in that way, no problem.
And again, I know I look forward to more coming from you. I think there's more. I don't think this is an end. I think there's more coming.
No, it's not. I'm writing right now. I'm writing. I'm writing.
And I hope more chiropractic students pick this up. And thank you so much for your contributions. We do need to carry on, as Reggie said. I appreciate sharing that. We really do. Humanity's counting on it. So and the gift of chiropractic and the calling to be a chiropractor is a precious one. So carrying that on is vital. So again, thank you for taking your valuable time to be with us today on the Mile High podcast. And I know this is going to be one that people listen back a couple times. And definitely learn. I hope it inspires more people to pick up more, read more about the principle and practice more in alignment with that for the people in their communities, because chiropractic lives in the offices that actually provide it in alignment with and coherently and congruently with those values. So thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Claude.
You're very welcome. That was my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us and listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it to someone else and definitely hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. And remember to clear your calendar for September 2023 to share with us at Mile High 11. Rise up to Mile High. RiseUpToMileHigh.com is where you can get all the details and be a part of the chiropractic movement in Colorado and emanating to impact more chiropractors and students around the world. Thank you, and keep changing spines and lives and minds with chiropractic.